guys for joining us on the Indie Lounge. This is Carlos Phoenix, and we're going to get our show started with the interview with Furqan from Blab.im. How's it going, Furqan? How are you?
Good. How's it going with you?
I'm doing great. So where are you guys located?
We're based out of San Francisco, California.
Very nice. Now, you guys are part of a platform that I have now currently become addicted to. And to give a description to everybody as to how it works, you basically go into the website or the application and you join a conversation or you host a conversation. And you can do it as a show or you can just do it as a conversation. You pretty much can talk about anything you like. And what's really cool is people who might be following you on Twitter, or maybe your fans from Periscope or Meerkat, or the people you follow might already be in this platform, and you can kind of join the conversation because instead of just chatting to them like you do on Meerkat or Periscope, you can also now maybe, if you get a chance or the opportunity, join them in a 4-window setup and talk to them and interact. And so that to me takes it to a whole other level of interaction. You get to meet people from all over the world. And so I hope I described it a little okay, but if you want to give a better description, feel free.
No, I mean, that's great. I mean, our basic premise is push a button, start a talk show. And so the way we think about it is 2 to 4-person conversations, generally about any kind of topic that you're interested in. And so, for example, I'm interested in sports, but more specifically with the NFL, the Raiders, or with basketball and the Warriors. And I'm trying to find people to talk about things. So I'm looking for like-minded people. And our platform, Blab, is a place where you kind of come in and you do that. So it's not a social network. It's about the conversation and the content, but you're going to meet people just like you and interact with them and be able to kind of like learn, argue, discuss, converse, and all of that. And so that's Blab in a summary.
Awesome. Now, can you give us a little bit of history, a little background as to the platform, how it came to be? There's a lot of history behind it, and I'm sure it'll be curious to some people to know about that.
Sure. So the story itself with Blab, is we're actually part of a team called the Bebo team. And Bebo was a social network out of the mid-2000s that our founder had sold to AOL. And he had set up our place to kind of be an idea lab, an incubator, whatever you would call it, to kind of foster ideas, let entrepreneurs kind of build things. And a couple of years ago, we got a chance to buy Bebo back for pennies on the dollar. And so we were working on basically rebuilding this old social network and trying to make a huge comeback and do all that. And we had actually launched an app in past December. And about 6 months in, we were looking at kind of some of the data you look at and you're like, man, like, it's not really that sticky. People, they like it, but they're not like loving it. They're not using it every day. And so we kind of knew that it wasn't really where we wanted it to be. And so what we did is, because we're an interesting team in the sense that like we have a lot of young people, we have some people with experience, and we have some loudmouths like myself and Sean, who's the CEO, and we're very opinionated, and maybe for right reason, maybe for wrong, but what we did was we decided to get the kind of younger creative bunch, and we kicked them out of the office, and we're like, for 2 weeks, go prototype something, come up with a fresh idea, go be your own startup. And they actually came back in 2 weeks with what you see as Blab now, which is this 2 to 4-person conversational platform. And they had built an iOS app and a website and just kind of gotten the ball rolling. And we looked at it and we were like, whoa, this is cool. And just very quickly after, how can we get it out to the public as fast as possible? And that's basically been the last 3 months. So from idea till now, it's only been about 3 months. And we've just been trying to iterate, trying to build in public, trying to just get it to people. And we're seeing a very, very, very different reaction than what we've seen in any other product before, which is, like you said, people are addicted to it. They love it. They really they really love the format and like coming back day after day after day of day and just consuming, a lot of content or creating a lot of content. And so that's kind of the long version of the story, but
that's fine. It's a long version format on the show. So now, so when I got on it, I heard about it through the twit.tv network and instantly went on the webpage and downloaded the beta app and so on, which is still in beta right now. And it did feel different. It felt different when you go into the communities. It felt different when you're looking at the people and they're really all excited. And it's almost like everybody found a brand new toy. And I think the fascination has a lot to do with well, in terms of the rooms that I've been in recently, they all have a same type of mission of wanting to communicate, of wanting to put out a message, and so on. And I think that's the fascinating thing, because I sometimes just sit there in the rooms and listen for like hours on end. And sure, sometimes the conversation kind of goes in different directions, but then the next conversation is even better than the last. And a lot of them are experts in whatever field they're in, and they participate and so on. And so it is sticking, and that's part of the fascination. And the whole reason I wanted really to have this kind of conversation with you is because it's working. And I just want to know, what do you feel the formula is, and why do you think it's working?
I mean, it's interesting because like we obviously don't have all the right answers, but
Sure.
we think about it, all day, all night. We're in all the blabs, and you've kind of seen us as we interact. But I think there's just something magical about when you meet a person. So like, like when you're growing up, you go through college, you meet a lot of people, you have a social life, right? And you have in college, most people have like anything that they're interested in. They have a friend that does the same thing, or isn't interested in the same thing. So you have these groups of like-minded people, and you kind of group up with them to, explore your hobbies, talk about life, kind of all kinds of different social behaviors. And in Blab, like what we're seeing is if you pair together like-minded people in a format where it's extremely engaging, where when I spend 5 minutes online with you on Blab, I literally feel like I know you now, and I feel like you're my friend. And then after hours go by, I know things about you that like I would consider, I would only know that about close friends, right? Like I've talked to some users so much. I know how they talk. I know how they think. I know how, all of that is happening with them. And I think this is like the closest thing we're getting to like real life engagement. And you're missing some bits, like we're not getting all the body language, but because the face is there, because you get like the, facial reactions, and the dialogue is instantaneous.
And sometimes, so there's people teaching you ways of making money and ways of making music, or even how to bake. It's so fascinating to see the variety of communication that's happening. And now that the doors have opened, even though it's still in beta, I'm now gonna sit back and see how many more people join in the community. Now, what kind of things did you have to tackle in respect to the technology? What? Oh, my bad. What kind of things did you have to kind of overcome in the initial setting up of this technology? Because it's video, and we all know video is just a lot of bandwidth and a lot of compression and a lot of this and that. And to make it function the way it is now, sometimes it's impressive. Granted, there's glitches here and there, but what were the first initial things you had to tackle? What were the things that you're like, oh boy, it's not going to work now because there's just no way to do this, and then you just overcame it?
So the first thought was I actually didn't think of it from an angle where what's going to be an issue, what's going to be a problem. Instant is not a real word. It's not a technical term, but it's how can we push it to the limits? And that actually made our job harder because, like you've seen, there's some glitches. And that happens because you have 30, 50, 100 people in a room, all that can affect what's happening in the room. Mm-hmm. And it needs to stay synchronized and extremely fast. So we can't analyze too much, right? We have to kind of build it in a way that it works and it's distributed. And you're right, like there are some technology challenges that are going to come up. Luckily, we do have some experienced people on the team that have dealt with companies of massive scale. And so having previous knowledge is very powerful. I mean, you learn from your mistakes and you know some answers, you know who to call, right? Like if this happens, I know, okay, cool, we're going to call this guy from this company and he's going to help us solve it. And part of being at a startup is about being lean, and lean doesn't mean cost lean or any specific thing. To me, it means nimble, and it means we were not there yet. We want to iterate. We want to get better, and our community is great. They help us understand how they would use it. They're finding new use cases for it. They're doing all the exploration, and we kind of watch, listen, plan, analyze, release, then do that cycle again where what we've got out there, did it work? Did it achieve the goal that we tried to do? And from a technology side, it's not about the best framework or the best X. It's how do we service our user? And all of our perspective is always going to be like that. And so we definitely make it harder on ourselves, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. So
that's cool. Now, I'm guessing there is a original technology that you guys have created, or is there a backbone that you're based on?
We use a lot. We use a lot of different stuff. So we use a video service provider. We use Amazon. We have our own data center. We write a lot of the software ourselves, but some of it is also third party. Part of it is sometimes to get off the ground, you decide I only have time to do one of these two things. Which one is more important today? And we'll be making those decisions over time. Like, I think it would be stupid for us not to use every possible resource all around the world that has been created. Like, I've been doing startup stuff for 15 years, and something like Amazon Cloud, I think could, if I had it 10 years ago before or 15 years ago when I was starting, so much stuff was different. The infrastructure or the on-ramp to get into a technology business was so high. And now you press a button, you got a server potentially 20, 30 places around the world instantly. Like that's some magic. And so we want to use any of those things to our advantage that we can. And I think we'll continue to do that.
Okay, cool. So you guys have just begun. What kind of direction are you guys looking at? What's the next step?
I think we're in this mode where we're finding the right mechanism for the core loop, as we call it, right? Like there's a behavior that happens both as a creator, they have their loop on how they want to use a product, and then as a viewer and then that goes even further. Like right now we've tried to put as much energy on how can we make the thing work. Then it's going to be about how do we make it optimal for different subsets of users, right? So as a creator, you might have some features like recording. We try to make it where like when you hit record, it starts recording. When you hit pause, you can kind of pause that period in between, so you don't have to post edit as much or spend a ton of time. We're probably going to go deeper with all those features for that type of person. Then there's people like that I look at, and you look at an industry like or a market like podcasting. When do people listen to podcasts? They listen on their commutes. And so for people on a commute, what's important is I can press the home screen on the iOS app, and it stays on, and you can put your phone in your pocket, or you can put the Bluetooth on and play it on your car speakers, and you can drive to work and listen to something. And there may be a set of features that are required there, whether it's save to your phone so that if you're on a train and you're going to go underground, how do I listen to this content that might have just happened yesterday? And I think building an audience is important in one way where, like, when you listen to something, you get loyal viewership. And you know this, you have a show, right? Like, you have a series of loyal users. They want your content specifically, right? They've become attached to you, your network, what you're producing, that vision. And I think that it's important to kind of try to understand all the pieces of the puzzle and build the solutions for those intents, and then go through that process as fast as possible, as more iterations, or figuring out what the right mechanisms there are. And so, like you said, we've just started and there's a long road ahead. I think it's going to be extremely fun personally. I'm excited for all the challenges. Not really excited for the lack of sleep, but trying to see how we can alleviate that in different ways.
One of the things I find fascinating is your whole team is in the rooms. You're actually listening and you're watching, and anytime there's a little glitch, you're like, oh, you're supposed to do this, you do that, and you fix it, and this and that, which is awesome to have that kind of participation from the team. Now, listening to Sean, I understand the way he looks at it is, and I'm sure probably the whole team looks at it, is the competition isn't Meerkat and Periscope, which are these, at least, I was going to say established, but it's really only about 4 or 5 months old, which is kind of ridiculous to say. But he's looking at the competition as television. And when I heard him say that, it was, aside from fascinating and interesting, I realized just in the days that I've been involved, I have not been on Facebook. I have not been watching television. I have not done these other things. I've actually been interacting with humans. And that's a very different type of interaction than your Facebook, where you're kind of interacting with aged information, outside of maybe messaging and that type of thing. But you may be communicating with people from all over the world using all these different platforms, but this one actually really is connecting you. You're actually interacting in real time at the same time, no matter where they are. Because I'll be talking, like this morning I was talking to someone in Australia, and I'm like, I'm talking to someone in Australia, not picking up the phone, trying to communicate randomly with somebody. This guy's there, and now when I enter a room, it's like being in Cheers, because my name is Real TLN. To promote the show, of course. But, people know my name now, and it's like, hey, Carlos. And it's like, wow, I can't even do that in my corner store. So So that's interesting. But now tell me a little bit about you. I know most of the time that I hear you guys talk in the chat, it's all about blah 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 blah. But you're on my show, so I wanna kind of get an idea of you, because I really like to get into the people. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm born and raised here in the Bay Area, so I grew up in San Jose. I got started in technology like really young. My dad kind of growing up I was always around computers. I was always kind of tweaking something since I can remember. I mean, I was a little kid. I started programming when I was in 6th grade or 5th grade. So I went to like a adult community college C++ class, and I was like a little 6th grader. It's really weird. There's like a bunch of adults and me, and so that was kind of cool just growing up. And I was always a tinkerer. The .com boom here in San Francisco was probably the craziest thing that I've seen in my life in terms of a wave of something happening, like phenomenon maybe. I don't know what the right word for it is. And the reason I say that is because everyone got caught off guard to the point that there wasn't really that much of like an H-1B like class of employees coming in. Like there weren't that many software engineers, and the technology was so early that people hadn't really caught up to it. And so when I was 15 or 16, I got a job at a .com building an interface for like a router. And that was my first kind of foray into the startup world. I was just a little kid in high school. And then, obviously the .com bust happened. And I, at that time, accidentally kind of started a company where I was really interested in, so like, I grew up around computers. So like for me, computers was like everything. And then it became like, how do you obsess more? Well, so I got addicted to some games, but then I realized like, man, I can just get really deep into the games. I don't like, the games are fun as a puzzle, but then what I really like to do is kind of tweak like with this hardware stuff. So like whether it was overclocking my computer or, playing with different settings or trying to figure out how to get the next level of performance. And then it became kind of a hobby, and then it was really expensive. And so I was like, man, this is too expensive. Like I got to buy these fans and it's going to cost me $50. So I kind of just put together $800 and I bought a bunch of fans and I started selling them and like different computer hardware pieces. And I started a company called casemod.com. And so in the first year,
you. Okay, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. In my first year, so it was like, I started with $800 worth of stuff in the corner of the garage. And within the first year, we did $1 million of revenue.
Wow.
And I literally had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. Like I was a 17-year-old kid with no clue. And it was like the 3-car garage was full of inventory. The house was full of inventory, living room, bedrooms, wherever. I had to like hire a team slowly. I had to get a warehouse. So it was all e-commerce. And so.
So you resolved the issue that the .com boom had.
Correct, which was monetization and revenue. Correct.
Now, I was part of the .com boom in New York.
Nice.
And we were doing the $500,000 websites and that type of stuff. Every weekend was a party and a launch party and this and that. And nobody had the ability or knowledge of how to make money off of this stuff. So I completely understand. And what's weird is that the fascination, that excitement, it's very similar to this.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so like I've seen waves of this kind of excitement, right? Whether it's .com, Web 2.0, and in between there might have been a couple, and now, and you kind of start looking at things and you're like, okay, what's different and what's the same? And you're right. The problem at that time was there was no monetization. Nobody was looking at it. It was just like up, but it's kind of fake and hyped in numbers, but not substantial. And I think I'm really glad I went to e-commerce after. Now when I look back at it, because it's very binary. You buy something for $8, you sell it for $16, and then I was always kind of on the software side. So whether it was SEO or Frugal or different product catalogs or eBay or any integration, I could do that, and I felt like that was my edge. So like I would take a hit on the profit margins because I didn't have capital, and what I would do is how quickly can I get rid of stuff? And if I could make money on it and get rid of it in a day, that was a good day. And so it didn't matter on the quantity, right? So that was my philosophy, was like, just get it cheap, let's move it. And, like there was an industry that was being made, and companies like Newegg were really small at the time, and we interact with them. They were, I don't want to call them a competitor because we were selling different things at the time, but I saw how they started. And now if I look back at myself then, I'm like, wow, I could have done it effectively a lot of the things that they did to continue to grow. I think I got burnt out, to be honest. Like I was doing 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks, just living in the warehouse, like just trying to just make that thing work. And 4 or 5 years of it was very tiring. And it definitely, when I look back again, it's like, how do you maintain something for 5, 7, 10 years? It's a marathon and not a sprint. It's a series of sprints, and this is very important. And so I actually took some time off after that, where I traveled the world. I played poker professionally for a little while. That was a fun experience. Learned a lot about life, a very different side of it. And then when I came back to the Bay Area and kind of settled down a little bit more, I went back into software, and I started my first software company or a startup. It was called Live RSVP. It's basically what Eventbrite is now, and poured a lot of my money into it. Built a team, had gotten a round of funding, and that was right around the time where we saw the bust of Web 2.0 kind of, and 2007, 2008, in that time where you weren't getting a Series A, you weren't going to get your next round of funding, and if you couldn't find a way to make money, it didn't matter. And our problem was even deeper than that. I didn't even know how to build a product, to be honest. Like, when I look at it now, it took us so long to build a product and launch it. We wasted months and almost a year probably doing things that didn't matter. And you see a difference when something like Blab, where every day we just ship it to the public. If I had just gotten stuff to my customer, not even on a daily basis, but on a monthly basis, instead of once in the first year, I would have figured out that the thing we were building wasn't the thing that they wanted. And this other thing that we talked about but we didn't build was actually the thing that they were willing to pay for. And it could have actually been the difference. It probably would have been a difference. And so that was probably like my biggest, I don't want to say wake-up call, but my biggest learning experience. Like, I felt like I gained a magnitude of knowledge after the fact, and years or months later of kind of agonizing on why the failure happened and what it was and what was the difference. And when you read, and the internet's, an amazing resource, and things like Quora or Stack Overflow or anything where people are kind of dumping knowledge, and you like read this stuff and you're like, okay, like literally what he's talking about is exactly what my problem was. And where was this essay when I was, trying to do it? And sometimes you don't learn until after you fail or after you succeed or whatever. You get some time to kind of decompress and figure it out. And so that to me was like kind of like my biggest, I felt like that actually like a bunch of things clicked where they didn't before. And I think that helped kind of the process. And so, and then right around late 2009, I basically was starting to run out of money because I poured it all into the company, effectively shut the company down, and went and got a job. I think I literally had like $100 left.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was like, I kind of need a job. Like, I don't think this is going to work out. And so I worked for a company called Reputation.com, and it was an interesting company because what they do is they manage your presence online. So your Google search, kind of what pops up, your privacy stuff. So if you don't want to be on Do Not Call lists, and they wanted to build out a technology solution for it. And I got like the weirdest pitch ever to join a company, which was CEO was kind of like, talked to the whole team, and they were cool. Very early on the engineering side, and he was like, Furqan, like, I know you're probably not in it for the long run because you kind of just have this thing where you want to like start a company, but if you just come and work here, we're going to show you all this stuff on how not to run a company or how you wouldn't run your company, and you're going to learn all this stuff. And in the meantime, you're going to help us out. And I was like, that's really weird, but like, it makes sense. Like, and it was kind of true because the business wasn't something that I was actually passionate about. The technology problems were cool, and I met a lot of amazing people, and I did learn a lot in how a company that goes from 30 people to 250 people, what changes happen on the organization level, what changes happened on the engineering level. It was the first time I got a chance to be a part of a team. I was like the third member of the team on the engineering side, and when I left, it was about almost 25 to 30 people. So like how that formed, how a product team differs from a research team, from an ops team, how you hire, how you don't hire, what a bad hire looks like, and it was 100% true. Where like I didn't stick around that long, and I wasn't that excited about it, and so I left there and I met a group of guys, which effectively became a company that we built called AppLovin. And AppLovin is a pretty big mobile advertising company now. So that was the last company that I was a part of. I was one of the founding members, the CTO there as well. And they're very big now and very dominant in the space. And again, very similar thing is I didn't really want to be in ad tech. I didn't want to be in a B2B type business. Not my passion in life, There were very cool things to do, like, technology enabled money, and that's kind of awesome, right? And so that's kind of my history coming up into Blab and the people and whatnot. I know it's a little long and a little long-winded, but
well, I mean that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get the depth and the team. Listening to Sean and now listening to you, there's definitely this depth that you're talking about and the experiences and so on is leading to what I'm seeing and observing about this team, in terms of they really want to know the public and what their desires are and what they want out of these tools. And I can see you guys just saying, okay, well, let's give that to them. And that's what's fascinating. That's what I think. I've never even interviewed someone like yourself or anybody in a team of software.
Awesome. Yeah. So, people can hit me up on Twitter, twitter.com/FurqanR. That's FURQAN, the letter R at the end. Or go to blab.im/FurqanR. It's the same spelling, FURQANR. And, find me on Blab, find me in a room. I'm generally on throughout the day and, say hello.
All right. Well, I truly appreciate you coming to the show. It's an awesome opportunity to be able to give some insight to what this platform is. I really think it's going to be a big deal once it really starts gaining even more traction than what it already has with the crowd that I've been able to interact with. And I do want to see how much it's going to affect the just with the changes you guys plan on making in the future. How it's going to affect all different types of industries, because I really think that different industries will grab it and personalize it to themselves. But anyway, guys, thank you very much again for joining me. And folks, thank you very much for watching. You can follow me at Carlos Phoenix, or you can follow the show at realtln.com. And of course, the shows will be on theloungenetwork.com. And there's more guests that I'll be having coming soon. We're going to have a lot more stuff for you. So again, have a great night, guys. And thank you again, Furqan, for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
All right, take care.